Today we have Rolf Heimes. Rolf was Global Head of Business Development, Channel and Alliances in Talend, has an amazing career in partnerships. He led both cloud marketplaces, but also the entire partner program on a VP level in multiple great companies, including Talend, CA Technology, previously in McAfee, and before that in Informatica. So we're going to be talking today about cloud marketplaces 0 to 1, basically the entire arc, like how marketplaces should be started and what are the results they can produce at scale.
Number one question is really why and how hyperscalers? And really what I want to get to is on a very, very high scale, 100,000 foot view, it's the leading thoughts on hyperscalers. Why are they so strong for us? Well, number one reason is they pave the road to our customers. And what I mean by that is, if you think about your company with between 500 and 1,000 employees, do you really think you're going to be the one who's going to convince Coca-Cola, for an example, to move to the cloud? Or is this not maybe something better done by one of the hyperscalers that do that all day long? So they really pave this road. And on top of that, it's something based on the approach that the hyperscalers have taken with their marketplaces. They made it so much easier for the C-suite to procure through their pre-committed spends. And that is something where I do believe we will see a motion from classic distribution over to marketplaces that are taking over that a lot. And we want to make sure that we don't cannibalize ourselves and make sure that we have differentiated go-to-markets there. Lastly, to me, I think what was important for us and what we've seen is the customer adopts technologies that work well together. Nobody wakes up on an idle Monday morning and says, I'm going to buy myself some software. They're going to wake up and say, I have a problem and I need that problem solved. Solving that problem frequently is not a solitary approach where you bring your piece of software and boom, it solves all the problems. Frequently, it's solutions that your partners build together with yourselves, and then it is within a defined solution technology stack. What I mean by that, it is, in my case, for example, it was Snowflake plus Talend running on AWS with a ThoughtSpot front end or something like that, or a Tableau front end. And it's a very firm, clearly defined technology stack that helps our customers to take a little bit the guesswork out of the whole discussion of what works together, what doesn't. So hyperscalers, to me, these are three high-level points that I find extremely interesting and extremely important. At the same time, I also want to call out just throwing stuff on the marketplace is not going to help you. We've seen that with more than 7,000 technology partners that we see on AWS Marketplace alone. If you just throw your solution on the marketplace by itself, nothing is going to happen. So you need to have all these surrounding support mechanisms from a go-to-market and demand generation perspective to grow. But let's move on here, and please interrupt me if you have questions. I put this on here because when we use the expression co-selling, there's different levels of co-selling that we have to go through in order to become really proficient in our approach. And on the highest level, the easiest approach in a quotation mark is really assisting our sellers in order to drive deals, which really means what we're doing is we're aligning accounts together between the AWS seller and our own sales organization, and making sure that we understand a little bit more about what is driving the need from the customer? What are they looking for? How can we assist them best? And do we have partners, marketplace partners in that particular case, that can give us a little bit more insights, a little bit more background information? And that's this assisting part. That's where everybody starts. The next level of sophistication would be co-selling, where really a marketplace or a hyperscaler salesperson is collaboratively selling together with you your solution or your approach. And that is a version of where you're much closer together. Very frequently what we're seeing there historically has been this co-selling happens much stronger in when you go with a very clear swim lane. Your swim lanes could be anything from a vertical focus in the go-to-market strategy, a regional focus in the go-to-market strategy, but also all the way up to very specific solutions that you're building. The next big point is sourcing. So what you're looking for is how do I get net new pipeline? And when I say net new pipeline, in my definition, and I think we have to talk about taxonomy here, what is a net new opportunity? It is an opportunity that I don't find today in my CRM system. Could be an existing logo, could be a new logo. Obviously, the pinnacle of everything is having a new logo, so that's awesome. But we want to make sure that we define what is a net new opportunity, and then we go into this whole sourcing discussion. That requires us to work a lot together with our demand generation and marketing practices to really get into that approach. And really the big nirvana approach is solutioning. Is where you don't have only two partners working together to going to the customer, but you actually have this full-on technology stack that's wrapped up together by an SI, by a VAR, by a GSI, and that really gives you this, what I spoke earlier about, the full-on full stack technology approach. Those are, in my perspective, the evolutions that everybody has to go through in order to become much stronger within the marketplace and the hyperscalers. Any questions to that so far? Roman, you okay with that? Perfect. So in order to get to that, sorry? So yeah, we're going to talk about these marketplaces. Okay. Okay, good. There we go. So in order to have a good start with that, you need to figure out where, because you can't be everything to everybody. Now, let's be very clear. In my personal opinion, AWS, Azure, and GCP, they're the big giants that you want to work with. One of those three is going to be the hyperscaler you start with. And in my personal approach or my personal belief and how we did it well is you pick one and you grow from there. And you pick this one because you can't be everything to everybody. What it will require you eventually to do is also to get some technology integration and built in, so you really get the benefits of the underlying services from your hyperscaler. But you need to first figure out which hyperscaler to go with. And there's a variety of approaches that you need to take. In my approach, what I look first is, well, what's the availability of my hyperscaler in the regions or in the segments that I'm actually looking for to grow into? And you can see on this very simplistic chart, there's different zones or regions and countries where the different hyperscalers are playing. There's different types of databases and cloud computing engines that our hyperscalers are using. They all have marketplaces, co-sales, and MDF programs, but they target slightly different personas, and they have slightly, and from my perspective, this claim to fame is my interpretation of how I use them best. So from the AWS side, it was BYOX, bring your own anything. It's your own program, it's your own product, it's your own solution, it's your own approach. And as long as it kind of fits into the AWS program, they will help you to make that work. When you go to Azure, your thought process might be a little bit along the lines, I'm either very strong in the Azure channel anyway, and I want to expand on that because we're working in a more of a Microsoft-owned world, or I am very strong for this Microsoft-owned world with my solution offering, and I don't have to reach through the channel, so I'm kind of looking for working with Azure's marketplace to enhance my capabilities and enhance my reach through their channel that Azure very clearly owns more than anybody else. And lastly, I'm looking at GCP, and if you look at GCP, it is incredibly strong and good technology, in my personal opinion, especially around advanced analytics. AI, ML, all of these areas, this is where we see extremely strong values coming from GCP. So you need to make sure that you get this approach right. Where do you want to start? Don't start with all three cloud providers at the same time. For us, it was a little bit easier because Talend was re-architected based on an AWS approach initially. So clearly, I was going to start with AWS initially to look at it, say, okay, how can we grow from there? Now, that said, I also want to be very clear. There's so many more clouds out there. However, I want to say they probably take anything between 10 to 15, maybe 20% of the entire market. But there's other clouds, and depending on in which niche, in which where you're playing, you may want to look at some of those. However, I do believe you're going to land fair and square with one of the top three here. But it's something that everybody has to look out for themselves. Now, in order to make this more methodological from an approach perspective, and give you a little bit of a focus area of how do I actually start this journey, I took this 5-step process. Now I want to be very clear, this is not my process. I've seen that multiple times with other companies. I've heard other people talk about it. I've made this process my own a little bit, but it's not the Rolf process. I would love to be able to trademark that. But this worked for us, and I hope it'll work for you too. So this hyperscaler process really has 5 big steps, of which we're going to go repetitively through step 1 through step 4 until we're ready for step 5, which means number 1 is just align on your go-to-market motions. Number 2, define metrics and KPIs. Number 3, analyze your pipeline for really strong and good candidates. Then handhold your transactions, and then we're going to skip, but later on it's going to be scale with your channel. And then we go back and do all the same thing again and again until we get really good. And keep in mind, every hyperscaler changes their approach multiple times over the year. Technology advances, new programs get introduced. So you want to refine this in an ongoing process. This is a never-ending circle with different areas where you can either add new products, new solutions, or new hyperscalers. So let's go into this a little bit deeper. I mentioned earlier, you're going to rinse and repeat this thing and get more detailed every time you go through this approach. But step 0 really is why. And this is, to me, so important. We always laugh when people have children and they ask why all the time. Well, this is a very, very good question to ask. And if you can't answer the why you want to work with a hyperscaler, you have a big, big issue. This why is so dramatically important because it helps you to build the foundation to also talk to your C-suite and your executives within your company, because it's going to require money, it's going to require investments in terms of time and people, and so this is the number 1 thing to get right. And while you're figuring out the why, you also need to have a target. Now, this target, without this target, your approach to why is a wish. Wishes and hopes are really a bad strategic advisor. So very clearly, get to the why. Marketplaces are the place where growth is happening. We're going to hear that in one of the future sessions from Jay McBain very clearly. And now put a number to it. You got to put a number to it, because at the end of the day, if you don't put a number to it where you say we need to achieve X, and even if it's a low bar, you need to have something so you can measure your progress at the end of the day. Again, this is a tricky part. You want to get it right. You don't want to overpromise and then underdeliver, but you got to take this approach, which is why it's so important to really scrub your pipeline. Now, let's talk about the big first step. Align your go-to-market approach a little bit more. So I said earlier, find the right CSP. CSP stands for Cloud Service Provider, just to be very clear. And pick it. And it's based on region, country, customers.
Join our 5-week course on cloud marketplaces and learn how to tap into the $250 billion spend that enterprises have committed to AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. Discover the future of go-to-market with Roman. During weekly sessions, you'll learn how to leverage this fast-growing channel and network with industry experts and partnership leaders. We'll dive into marketplace strategies, internal buy-in, building relationships with the cloud, and mastering co-sell. Join our upcoming cohort.